Hey everyone, my name is Ben Heisch, and today we are looking at this tiny pancake lens from Fujifilm that got released with the X-E4. I have finally gotten my hands on it, and as many of you commented on my original video with the X-E4, it is a great little pairing. So this little thing is really small, like legitimately is super small. So if you are maybe considering getting an X100 series camera, but you just don't want to because you want to have interchangeable lenses and all sorts of other options like that, this could be a good little option to give you a more pocketable sized camera combo of sorts. The thing about it is it's a 40mm equivalent at 27mm and it's 2.8, both of which don't necessarily excite me that much. 2.8 is a little bit slow for my tastes on a crop sensor, and then 27mm or 40mm in the full frame world is just like this kind of weird in between. It's like a little bit tighter than a 35, but not quite a 50. With all that being said, I've been using it as my personal kind of camera and lens combination for, I don't know, about a week or so now, and to sort of figure out who would best benefit from a lens like this. Now, the thing that's going to be kind of obvious to many is that I've added this little square hood from Square Hood. If you are interested, I get nothing from saying this, but you can buy one of these in the description down below. But if you don't have it, the actual element and the actual glass of this lens is so small that I wouldn't really be worried about this unless you're just gonna throw it in a bag completely. And then at that point, just toss on the tiniest lens cap of all time. But the nice thing about this hood is it doesn't really add that much space and weight and everything like that, and kind of makes it look cool. And then I'm not worried about, I can toss this anywhere. So it's definitely a good little kind of stopgap or filler for something like that if you want an X100 style, but don't want to be stuck with a 35mm equivalent. So as this is the second version of this lens, I'll go over just the smallest little bits that they've changed. They've added weather sealing, but the unfortunate thing is the X-E4 isn't weather sealed. So I'm sure that the weather sealing in the lens actually probably would help between the lens and the body, maybe. It's not going to make this camera waterproof or anything, but I do feel like it probably would help the camera in general. And then they've added this little aperture ring, which especially on a camera like the X-E4, the comments I've gotten over and over about this camera are the lack of dials. So adding a aperture ring on to the lens itself makes this lens a lot more functional, as you only really have this one kind of scroll dial here. So if you had to set, just your aperture via the scroll dial, you wouldn't be able to use it for anything else, and that'd be kind of annoying. That being said, those are kind of the only two updates. Honestly, it is just like the smallest lens, super tiny. If you're looking for ultimate portability and maybe something that honestly is just a little bit bigger than a lens cap, I mean, you kind of can't go wrong with this little setup here. So I think what we'll do is jump in, look at a few images on the iPad here that I have been, photographing and using lately. And then we can kind of see what kind of separation we get, what kind of a field of view, all that kind of stuff you're getting from this little 40mm 2.8 equivalent. All right, so this first photo obviously is just of the camera and lens. I use this longer strap from Clever Supply Co. along with these, Peak Design hardware that they make. And the nice thing is this one's a little bit longer, so I kind of use it as a sling and then I can toss it behind my back. Really cool combo. And again, this camera doesn't really weigh anything, so it makes it really easy. Just kind of snap this photo on the walk we took yesterday as a family. So here's a little bit of what I think that you could probably expect to get out of this camera lens combination with the crop sensor and then this at 2.8. I will say that also, I think all of these photos were taken wide open, so you'll get kind of that feel. So you can see that there's actually some pretty good bokeh here in the out of focus elements, and the color is good. There's not a ton of separation, but you can still get that, which is great. it is definitely quick enough to get focus with my kids who run around a lot. And you can kind of tell, for me at least, like this lens is like not a 50, but it's also not a 35. It's not wide. It feels a little bit weird. And I think that's just because I'm not used to using this focal length, and I've used most other focal lengths for well over a decade. But you can see that, like, you know, this is taken of me obviously in a mirror and with our kitchen behind us. You can definitely get some good depth of field where the lens itself is, you know, the X-E4 logo itself is in focus, and then even like my glasses are out of focus. So up close, you're still getting a decent amount of subject separation. And I'll say too that the sharpness out of this lens is totally adequate. It's not like unbelievably sharp, but it's definitely not soft. So as a lens performer, I think it does great. So here is a lot of what I've been just, you know, photographing, just photos of my kids as we go about life these days. One of the things that I will definitely say though is I do miss the close focus of both the 18mm and the 23mm of the X100V. I think that these photos both are probably at just about minimum focusing distance. So if you want to get a really close-up photo of a baby or something, you just don't have that same, and not macro range, but close focus range that you do in a lot of other things. But you can see also this is a like super minimum focusing distance. The out of focus elements where you're getting that bokeh from is about, I don't know, 20 feet away or so. And so you're still getting that nice rendering, that nice out of focus stuff, but you're not getting like super shallow depth of field or anything. But again, when you're super close, sorry that my little 6-month-old is a little bit distressed here, but you can see his eyes are in focus, even though he's moving and stuff like that. And then his ear is completely out of focus. So it still does a good job of subject separation if you are up close and you're shooting it wide open at 2.8. So here's another, you know, just trying to take like some examples. Went out for that walk, did some photos. Here's like the inside of this flower. And here's another kind of like close focus test of what the out of focus elements and everything look like. There's plenty of sharpness in this stuff right here. It looks like it's focused kind of like in on this stuff. And then all of this out of focus stuff, I mean, it's busy, but I think it's just busy because there's just not a lot of separation, right? But I think that it is a really pleasing image. And then once you get into a few of these other photos down the line here, you'll start to see, you know, there's like cool fall off here. I think that the out of focus elements in this area look really good. And then on photos like this is slightly back focused, but actually, you know, if you're focusing right here, there's definitely plenty of sharpness. Definitely usable. And that does look really good. Yeah, looks good. So here's like our friend's coffee shop. Yeah, and there's plenty of sharpness in the middle here. Like here's my wife and my son as we were taking this walk. Stopped by our friend's coffee shop. And yeah, plenty of sharpness, plenty of detail. So overall, I think this is a good lens. If you're maybe jumping into the realm of interchangeable lens cameras and you want to get an X-E4, I do think that making this lens part of the kit that it comes with makes a ton of sense. And I would definitely recommend this for a lot of people. I think the lens and this camera body kit together are $1,049 US. And I can have a link to this lens and then the kit and the body and everything like that in the description down below. Honestly, I think it's a good kit if you are wanting the smallest lens possible while still getting yourself into an interchangeable lens camera. I think if you aren't bothered by the 2.8 aperture, about the 40mm equivalent focal length, and the lack of a lot of really, really close focus, if none of those things are deal breakers for you, it's a pretty good lens. And I definitely, again, feel like it pairs really, really well with this camera. So thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions about this lens or this camera. I have an entire other video where I introduce this camera and go over a lot of the photos that I've made with the X-E4 specifically. And I also have other videos about Fujifilm cameras comparing the X-E4 and the X100V together. So if you're kind of between those two cameras, I think that video would be a great resource as well. So thanks again, and I will see you on the next one.